This edition of The Best Times explores the future of senior centers. Will they be able to attract the boomers? You'll meet a retired salesman who's devoted his life to establishing halfway houses for paroled inmates. And you'll learn about legal documents that can speak for you, even when you can't. Funding for The Best Times is provided by... Since 1988, the H.W. Durham Foundation has been focused on aging issues, providing grants to programs like The Best Times to enrich and improve the quality of life for our older citizens. The Best Times is the only monthly news magazine exclusively for the age 50-plus reader. Your copy is free at over 200 locations, with important stories and news you don't want to miss. The Best Times is always the best. Trezevant, a life care community, a celebration of life. The responsible decision for your well-being now and in the long term. And being responsible has never been such a hoot. TrezevantManor.org. When American financier and statesman Bernard Baruch turned 85, he said, "To me, old age is always 15 years older than I am." The perceptions that we have of the aging process are at the crux of a problem that faces today's senior centers. They're on the cusp of a generational change, moving from the World War II generation to the boomers. But they face a difficult transition because we boomers have the perception that senior centers are for old people, and old people are always 15 years older than us. In tonight's cover story, we explore the future of senior centers. This is the Josephine K. Lewis Senior Center in Midtown Memphis. On the days we visited, there was a flea market in the parking lot, dancing to a live band in the auditorium, a class in hat making, and of course, a bingo game. On an average day, 125 people use this facility, and they all seem to love it.
It's the best center in the city.
I just think it's a great place to be, and the people are so friendly.
It gives seniors the ability to do other things other than being at home.
And there's only one regulation you have to have, and that is you've got to have a good time.
Senior centers were born out of the Older Americans Act of 1965, which was a part of President Lyndon Johnson's Great Society. Today, there are about 11,000 centers in America, at least one in every county, serving over 1 million people per day.
Our true mission statement says that we are to provide three things: leisure, wellness, and educational opportunities.
I think they're a wonderful tool to help keep people healthy and active.
We're just like a community center for you and I. The only difference is everyone that comes here has to be 55.
Senior centers have fulfilled that mandate for nearly 50 years, providing events and activities, meals and wellness information, and educational opportunities to anyone 55 or older. Many of the activities are free, or, like some trips or classes, involve a modest cost. A $10 a year membership at the Lewis Center entitles you to discounts on lunches and events, but you don't have to be a member to use the facility. In contrast, the Hall Center doesn't have a membership fee yet. Center directors agree that one of the primary benefits they offer is a byproduct of all the events and classes. It's socialization.
Socialization is a key element. We have a lot of seniors that are in their homes. They don't have a lot of contact, on a daily basis.
The seniors love their center. This is their center. And I think that's what the average person doesn't understand, is that, it's like a family.
Currently, the average user of a senior center is a woman in her mid-70s. But that profile may change as the centers move into the second decade of the 21st century, because a wave of baby boomers will be bringing a new set of challenges and opportunities to the center's directors and managers. It's all about perception.
I think part of the future is changing the name. Who wants to go to a senior center? So we're going to have to figure out what else to call them.
The majority of the people probably in our age group, they think, well, that's just a place where they go and play bingo. Which brings to mind, when I first came here, there's a bumper sticker, and it's still on the wall upstairs, because of course we do play bingo twice a week. There's a bumper sticker that says, support bingo, keep grandma off the street.
In fact, we're working on a survey to see if changing the name to, I don't know, some kind of wellness center, or I'm trying to think of another name, lifestyles or something. If we could get something that might sound more appealing.
What else could we be called? What else could we call ourselves? Because we are what we are.
But yeah, I think it's a definite stigma. I think there's a lot of people, I know there's people that don't come because they say, oh, y'all just a bunch of old folks. Well, we may be old folks, but we're having a good time.
Changing the name may help boomers perceive the centers differently and get them in the door. But to keep them coming back, centers are looking to revamp their offerings.
I think that aging itself will be different for boomers. They are not going to go quietly and nicely away. We're going to be a demanding bunch.
You'd like to think that what our core group does now would become the core group, but they're not going to come and stay at the senior center all day. They've got other things going on.
But one thing that boomers are interested in that seniors centers really do have to offer, and that's great opportunities for exercise, and whether it be an exercise class or a dance class, and they're much less expensive than going to the gym.
When we do surveys, exercise continues to rise to the top of the list. So we're constantly looking for new types of exercise.
We have tried to start doing some things in the evening. We have some computer classes early evening. We have our exercise class early evening. We have our yoga class early evening. Once again, to try to see if we could attract some of the people who still work, whet their appetite, get them interested, so that when they do retire in 5 years, 10 years, that they already know about us.
We're going to have to think outside the box, maybe offer some off-site programming.
I think once people get in the door, that, if that is what's used as a hook to draw them in, then we'll find out that there are other things going on, such as the Spanish classes or the computer literacy classes, other things going on that will hold their interest and keep them coming back.
Not only do the centers face the challenge of programming activities for ages ranging from 55 to 100, but they must deal with the distinct differences between the generations. Joni Cook has noticed that her core group of participants, 70 and 80-year-olds, arrive when the center opens around 9 and stay until the buses leave at about 2.
I think they just really enjoy each other's company. Our new seniors, our boomers, if you will, that are beginning to retire, they come for a particular program, and then they're gone about their day.
Developing a senior center that appeals to the boomer generation means making changes. I asked the directors and members what would be on their wish list.
We need a heated, indoor, zero-depth pool.
We'd like to have a small auditorium.
We do need a larger exercise room. The room that they got is kind of small.
Maybe a few more exercise classes.
Maybe a walking area.
I'd like to have a theater-style room.
We asked for things last year, but the city denied us.
Everything comes down to money.
Everything does come down to money. And for senior centers across the country, money isn't available to remodel facilities like the Lewis Center's 60-year-old building, or to expand the Hall Center so the exercise classes don't overflow into the hallway or the adjacent lunchroom. Senior centers operate almost entirely on public funds, and the recession has meant budget cutbacks.
Funding's an issue for everybody. It's not just senior centers. All programs are having to deal with shrinking resources.
You know, I've been here for 26 years and I've seen the cuts every year. You know, I've lost from having, you know, this many full-time people to having this many full-time people. From this many, you know, we're a very small staff, and compared to where I came from 26 years ago, we're nothing as far as staff-wise.
We don't have a lot of outside resources. We have fundraisers throughout the year, and we use those funds to try to enhance programming, buy new exercise equipment. So far, we haven't had to use that money to pay the utilities, but it may come to that. So it's a challenge, and like you said, going out into the future with future programming with the boomers, the influx of boomers, it's going to be a problem.
Keep doing what you're doing and do it more. Do better and do more, but I'm going to give you less money to do it in.
At a time when senior centers should be expanding to handle the influx of millions of boomers, center directors are being asked to do more with less. Sometimes creative financing works. The members of the Lewis Center wanted security cameras for the parking lot. The city said they didn't have the money. So the members literally took up a collection.
They bought the security cameras. Now, the city guys came and installed them for us, but my seniors paid for the security cameras.
And that's not all. When the city said no to continuing the monthly newsletter, the members chipped in to pay for printing and postage.
Well, financially, it's going to be grim unless we can get really creative and find other resources to, unless we pass that cost along to them.
And so I hate to say that the center directors are just going to have to be really creative. And I think it's okay to call on the participants themselves because they're the ones who benefit by the program.
So, in the future, boomers may be paying for programs that are currently free. In some states, the recession has resulted in major cutbacks, even elimination of some senior centers. Here in Tennessee, we've been more fortunate. Budgets have been whittled away, but so far, no centers have closed their doors. But the longer the effects of recession remain, the greater the question becomes about the survival of senior centers.
If we don't get creative and find ways to draw the boomers, I think we'll disappear.
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think we're going to go away. I don't think we're going to go away. I think we're going to stay. Will we ever get a new building? Will we ever be remodeled? I don't know.
As we've seen many times on this show, retirement means different things to different people. For some, it's a time to kick back and relax after a lifetime of working. Others find rewards in travel or hobbies. But some people find time in their retirement to make a difference in the lives of others. Such is the case with Bob Sauter. It's supper time on a Tuesday night, and Bob Sauter is cooking meatloaf. He does this almost every night, not for his family or his friends. He's feeding a group of men just released from prison, living in a halfway house that he owns. It's not exactly the way he envisioned his retirement years.
10 years ago, if somebody would have walked up to me at the Rotary Club and said, "Bob, you're going to be in Tennessee, you're going to be going into penitentiaries and speaking to men about the Lord's message," I probably would have fallen off a bar stool.
Bob Sauter calls himself a road warrior, having spent most of his career as a traveling salesman for a multinational corporation. He and his family have lived in 4 states before coming to Memphis to retire near his grandkids.
10 years ago, as I said, I was living a lifestyle outside of any spiritual influence. I just looked at my life to that point in time and said, well, what have you done that's made a difference? And honestly, while I've lived a life as most men have, married, had some children, worked in my community, was in the Rotary Club, as I mentioned, been in business. I really had no legacy.
At the busy corner of Summer and Highland, almost hidden beside a gas station, you'll find Bob Sauter's legacy. This is Forgiveness House, a halfway house for men paroled from prison.
We sacrificed by taking some money initially from my retirement in order to come up with the equity position to buy this building. And we found this building mid-2006. It took us the balance of that year to renovate it and get it to the point where we could be approved by the Department of Probation and Parole, which we are. We're a parole board approved house with the state of Tennessee. Opened in early 2007, and we're about to approach our 3rd anniversary of helping guys coming out of prison.
Forgiveness House can accommodate 9 parolees plus 1 house manager. The parole board mandates a minimum 90-day residency, but the average stay at Forgiveness House is double that. It's a highly structured environment with the goal of helping these men return to a world that may have changed dramatically since their incarceration.
I've got a man that went into prison when Ronald Reagan was president in his first year. So our society has changed so dramatically that it's an amazing thing to watch a man like that come out, and I'll have to lean on some supernatural help there, but to find a place, find a job, for example, that is ideally suited for him, one that he can understand and operate at without knowing how to use a computer or debit cards or cell phones or all the new technology that obviously that you and I are very familiar with.
Bob gets about 50 letters a month from inmates applying for residency. He interviews the men personally, and one of his chief selection criteria is the man's spirituality.
The statistics state that men who have gone through and had a spiritual renewal in prison, regardless of what the spiritual renewal is, they have a 50% better chance of making it once they are released. It has to come within the man. It has to be here. We could have the greatest program in the world. It could be free. It could be this. It could be everything that a program could be. But if the man doesn't have it in his heart to make it today, he's not going to make it. So that's the kind of questions I ask when I get to interview them in the prisons. Are you tired of the foolishness? Are you ready to grow up, man up here, and come out here and do what's necessary to make it out here? Because it all boils down to you.
Bob knows he's fighting a battle against overwhelming numbers. Each year, about 3,000 men are paroled from West Tennessee prisons. Forgiveness House is one of just a handful of faith-based halfway houses to serve an ever-growing population of parolees. But Bob measures success by the small miracles that occur every day.
Here's a building that sat vacant for 5 years that now has had probably 50 men come through it since we've been open. Now, not all of them are success stories, and we've had a few disappointments to be sure, but the majority of those men are still out in the community, and the majority of those men are still doing the right thing. They haven't gone back to the old ways. So even though they haven't hit the big job or maybe married or have gotten a solid family structure yet around them, these are the success stories. These are the men that really I can look to and say, hey, you know, here's what we've been able to do.
Bob Sauter's commitment to making a difference in the lives of these men continues. He's just opened a second house on Macon Road with room for 7 men. Men looking for a second chance, or maybe their last chance. Men looking for forgiveness.
The attitude has to change. These men need to be forgiven. Christ has forgiven them. They've been forgiven on a spiritual level. It's society that carries the grudge. Again, the Bible clearly states in 2 places that in order to be forgiven, we must forgive. And I don't know which comes first, the chicken or the egg, but forgiveness must happen either before or after. And while these men cannot probably face, many of them, face their victims, again, from a spiritual point of view, the Lord will equalize that situation. And they will be able to go back out into the community and help somebody else that's been damaged. And in that restoration will be helpful not only to that person, but also to our guys that are out there trying to make a difference in somebody else's life.
Nancy Cruzan, Karen Ann Quinlan, Terry Schiavo. They were the central figures in bitter national debates over end-of-life and right-to-die issues. Their tragic cases drew attention to a group of legal documents, commonly called living wills, that can set forth a patient's wishes even when that patient cannot communicate. Less than half of all people who enter a hospital have these documents. Should you have one? Here are the basic facts about advance directives. What is an advance directive?
An advance directive is a written instruction, first of all, designating an agent, usually in Tennessee, and sometimes also giving instructions to your caregivers as to what sorts of treatment you would or would not want in specific circumstances.
What is the purpose of these documents?
The first thing that anybody would want when unable to speak for himself or herself would be to identify someone else who knows us, who knows what we would want or has some idea about our values and can make decisions for us, considering all the facts that are relevant at the time, which we cannot know in advance, and you cannot know how you would feel about it in advance. When confronted with it, hearing the doctor's advice, considering everything going on in your life, the best decision can be made, usually by an agent.
Are there different types of advance directives?
We generally talk about proxy directives. Designating an agent is an example of that. In Arkansas, they call it a proxy. And we talk about instructional directives, like a living will that says, I do want this, I do not want that.
Do I need both documents?
Most people only need an advanced care plan that gives you an opportunity to both designate an agent and express your preferences as to specific types of treatment that you might or might not want. And that's the only document you need. It's 2 pages, usually front and back of one sheet, that covers those bases. A form of that nature has been approved by the State Department of Health for use in our healthcare facilities in Tennessee. There's a very similar form in Mississippi.
What if I'm hospitalized without an advance directive document?
Not everyone has an advance directive. Less than half the people who go into a hospital or nursing home will have an advance directive on entry. In that circumstance, a competent, conscious person can designate a surrogate orally, very much like an agent, very similar, and that works fine too. The surrogate then can make healthcare decisions for the patient once the patient loses capacity, and that's a good mechanism that we have now in our state law that did not exist until 2004.
To download state-approved advance directive forms, go to caringinfo.org. These forms are simple documents and do not require the services of a lawyer. Forms can also be obtained at hospitals, nursing homes, and legal services offices. Want more information about life after 50? Go to our website, wkno.org/besttimes. And while you're online, click over to Next Avenue, PBS's website where grown-ups keep growing. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Hardaway. Good night. Funding for the Best Times is provided by Trezevant, a life care community, a celebration of life. The responsible decision for your well-being now and in the long term. And being responsible has never been such a hoot. TrezevantManor.org. The Best Times is the only monthly news magazine exclusively for the age 50-plus reader. Your copy is free at over 200 locations with important stories and news you don't want to miss. The Best Times is always the best. Since 1988, the H.W. Durham Foundation has been focused on aging issues, providing grants to programs like The Best Times to enrich and improve the quality of life for our older citizens.